All right, Max, what do we got today? Absolute Monster, The Fox Maidens by Robin Ha. This is a wonderful. I love this book. So again, spoilers right at the start. It's a great story in like I believe the 16th century Korea. And it's basically about this main character Kai. She is an awesome, fun, dynamic, multifaceted main character who really wants to make her dad and mom proud. She aspires to kind of break the mold of traditional gender roles for girls and be this like warrior. And like a good story like this would, it gets magic. She gets involved with some supernatural powers that are directly connected to some like really interesting Korean folklore. So right off the rip, you get a lot of ingredients that I think make for potentially a fantastic graphic novel. I think that executed extremely well. Um, I'll I'll give uh, I'll give my patent pended scoring method right off the top. This is like one of the highest I've ever graded. So again, spoilers right at the beginning, like always. But starting with the characters, I've said this before. I'm a bit biased, but I would absolutely come back to this story specifically because of the awesome characters involved. From uh, from the magic of one of the central folklore characters, this Gumiho. I don't know how to say this because again, I'm horrible at pronunciation. I'm getting better at holding this in front of the thing. It's like this nine-tailed fox with magic powers. It's a fascinating character. You also get just I'm gonna hop around here a little bit. You get these wonderful also senses. They really set the stage about the society and where there's these like breakdowns. There's a very clear hierarchical class structure. They lay it out colorfully with different examples you can see here. And then, right after laying out this class structure, you get basically the whole main family where everyone lives. You can see which ones are above or lower class. You see one which has an unknown class, which is like an interesting tell right at the beginning. You can also see there's 8 characters, and I mentioned this before. This is subjective. This is like the perfect to me number of characters to make a compelling story. It's enough that you can remember basically every single character distinctly as long as they are unique and distinct, and every single one of these characters, arguably maybe the two sons that are kind of jerks on the one side, but everyone here I think has a really specific part to play in the story. And beyond this, without giving actual spoilers about the story, the other characters they bring in are absolutely interesting and fantastic. It feels just like the economy of characters is used so well. And beyond that, I think it's just uh, like Kai herself as a main character is amazing. Like you get you get moments of her. You get to ride an entire emotional spectrum with her. You get to watch her grow up over time, go through quite literal transformations. Again, without like spoiling the whole story. And she's like wants to be such a good fighter. She wants to grapple. She wants to be, you know, in one sense, one of the boys while also being exactly who she is. And I think like I know I'm skipping around a lot, but I think if I were to say a high level comparison to what this book does, and this will lead into some of what I think is really strong too on like the history and culture side. Um, I just realized too. I think this is the first time I ever accidentally flipped the order of how I do this. Anyway, um, this book really drew strong comparisons to me to an anime actually on Netflix called Blue Eye Samurai. If you haven't seen it, it's fantastic. And there's a lot of parallels which I think just make this so fun and exciting. So, Blue Eye Samurai is about it's kind of an inverse story where there's a typical racist trope where a world of white people and then someone's not white, and it a lot of the story is about overcoming that. This is the same type of story, but it's flipped because in feudal Japan in like the 1600s it was like illegal at a certain time for like Europeans to be there at all, and so this main character was half Japanese, half white. She had blue eyes. That was like associated with being a demon at the time, and a big chunk of her story is like it's like a revenge tale to kind of avenge like the fact that she almost exists, and like she has to almost obtain like supernatural fighting abilities to compete also in a male dominated samurai world. You get like such a wonderful sense of what I think the people that made the show did such a good job making it feel like what Japan would have felt like in that century. The food, the housing, the social structure, transportation, medicine. Like you just soak up. Again, it's like what I've talked about before in like Helena Filipina. Um, that idea of like letting a graphic novel or any art feel like you like almost are like like touring the place even though you're not there. I think it builds a broader, cultural landscape and consideration within us to like know more places. I think that this book just felt like a version of that in Korea, in its own right, in a different place. Like you have this sort of badass lead female character, coming of age story involved, almost has to become superhuman and does to overcome obstacles in her way. Not so much a bit of this is a revenge story too, but like it's more than that also, which is phenomenal. But at the same time, you get all this awesome researched like food, the housing, transportation, medicine, like so much of I think like what some language and some currency. Like I'll flash a couple of those later, but that would say I think also one of just like the strengths of this. It has so many similarities there. So anyway, I'm spending a long time on characters. I love the characters. I love the dad. I don't want to spoil too much. In terms of the art, I thought a 7 out of 10. It's strong. Some of the fight scenes look, I think, like cool, energetic. I think like they lean on a lot of like red, blue hues. It depends on the page, but I feel like the whole book has a lot of color in it, but there's a lot of deliberate choices for limiting the palette depending on like what stage of the story you are, like who you're interacting with. Like there can be a lot of black and white, gray, muted out parts as well in some of the chapters where it's like talking about like orphans essentially being like treated like chattel and things like that. So I think the art does a really good deliberate job of mimicking, I guess, almost like the connotation of what's happening in the story. Like if it's sad and downtrodden, you might only have two kind of grayish toned colors. If you're like fighting, there's like actiony yellows and bright red blood stuff. Like so I like the color. I like the texture a lot. Something about it just like probably like I don't think there's like many scenes in it where it's like that would be the sole reason I would come back, but I would say it's above average for sure, just in terms of like general strength. Like I think I liked it a lot, and I'm a fan of color in general. I can't say anything negative about it. I would just say like maybe just other parts of the book are so strong. Not to say it like washes out my appreciation for the art, but it almost does wash out a little bit of my appreciation for the art, just how good some of the other parts are. But again, you get like lovely scenes like this. Again, seeing like kind of their entire home and estate. That'll lead me to the history culture part, which I don't know why I wrote this mixed up. I never do that, but that's typically what I review next. Again, just like a monster score. I gave it a 9 out of 10. I already showed they give hierarchical family breakdowns. You can see here at the bottom of the pages oh my gosh, I'm still bad at this. They also will give like specific asterisks for like relevant religious or monetary things, parts of Korea at the time where you could, they really did their research. So if you read the whole thing, there'll be tons of these little asterisk moments where it teaches you like an idiom that's popular in Korea, or this is the capital of this province or whatnot. This is close to Seoul. This is, a unit of money they used at that time. And you get like, you learn at the beginning the kind of social hierarchy structure. You get at the end also this really cool like author's note about a big chunk of what this story is about, which this concept of like, I think I'm saying it right, like Han, where like a lot of Korean women writers have written about this, but it's kind of almost like there's been such a patriarchal power structure that many books like this written by like Asian, like Korean women artists, it's like this feeling of longing for something missed, like you were kind of forced into a maybe only motherly role when you had all these other abilities and such. And so this is almost like a fantasy breaking out of that, like what you could do given the opportunity. So like I just think like you get so much cool visualization. It feels again very researched and like interesting, just like Blue Eye Samurai does. If you ever get the chance to see that, I obviously can't fact check everything, don't have time, and I'm not an expert in such things, but like it feels like it really creates this really fun, believable, well researched, interesting cultural historical thing. Like if you wanted to get a sense of like what 1600s Korea is like and some of the ways people would have felt for not just that time but almost up until a lot of present day, this is just a really good job at that. The clothing, all that stuff. Readability, I give it a 7 out of 10. I think it is like a little bit on the longer side, like over 300 pages. Some of the pages can be decently text heavy, others are quite light. And the characters really propelled me through. Like I think like I had to give it an above average score because even though it's a little longer and there's a bunch of stuff going on, I think I still finished this in like 2 or 3 sittings at night. So I mean I just found it really really interesting and really good, and I know I would reread it again. So I think it's like can't give it too low a score there. So above average readability as well. And then X Factor, like again, I had to give it a very high score. I don't want to step through all the stuff they blend in here, but it just feels like they blend so many different kind of cool things simultaneously. I'm a sucker for what like I sort of reviewed last time, which is what was it? Courage to Dream, I believe. Yes, Courage to Dream. I was just looking on my bookshelf. I hadn't returned to the library yet. Courage to Dream, or Schubeck Lubeck, or so many other things where you take like very fictional, wonderful, fantastic, magical, miraculous kind of elements that fit the very place you're trying to explore the people, and do it in like a very organic, fun way that like naturally, it's almost like what I feel like sometimes what a really good superhero movie does, where it's like the superpowered person is like somehow aligned with what the story is about, so it just propels it and makes it more heightened and interesting. I think they blend really cool magical folklore into the story that reflects this yearning for more that a lot of people would have felt at this time, while giving you again all of this contextual setting that gives you a sense of like being this graphical novice tourist of this place at the time. So overall, an 8 total score, which is huge. Like I think one of the top 5 of everything I've reviewed, which coming up almost at 40 now, which is great. So like probably like top 10% of what you could read. Massive suggestion. Definitely pick up the Fox Maidens. It's really really cool. Leave it there on that while I continue to do my last second plug. If you're in the mood for a children's book also, I'm going to keep plugging this shamelessly. I wrote a children's book. If you got kids from 2 to 6 or friends with kids 2 to 6 and you're looking for a cool gift, check it out. I'll leave a link in the description. I'm looking to make more of these to keep diving in the children's fiction space, and then eventually hopefully get to maybe make my own graphic novels at some point, which is the goal. But anyway, hopefully you pick this up. It's all about the games kids play to avoid going to bed. So any new parent or parent with kids in this range would probably understand. And this has helped a lot of my friends kind of make a little bit of a ritual out of it, reading the book sometimes. So hopefully if you do pick it up, leave a nice review on Amazon. And until next time.